We're following breaking news right now out of New Orleans East.
A police officer has been shot and killed. The shooting happened around midnight near the intersection of Terra Lane and Lake Forest Boulevard. The officer was on duty at the time. He was taking part in a routine patrol and rushed to University Medical Center after that shooting, where Police Chief Michael Harrison has announced that the officer did pass away. We have team coverage this morning from the scene of that shooting out in New Orleans East and from University Medical Center, where the officer was taken. We begin our coverage with the latest from the medical center, and Danny Monteverde is live there. Danny, we know that Mayor Landrieu and the police chief did hold a press conference there not too long ago.
That's right, Sheba. They did just a short time ago. Now, behind me at the University Medical Center, as you said, one New Orleans police officer is unfortunately dead this morning. The man they believe shot him is also at the hospital as well. He's being treated after police apparently returned fire on him. Now, we did get an update from the mayor and police chief just a few minutes ago. Here's what they had to say.
Good morning. I'm here with our mayor of our city, Mayor Mitch Landrieu, Commander Lawrence Dupree, Commander of the 7th District, and Deputy Chief of Police Orlando Westbrook of our Public Integrity Bureau. At or about 12:14 a.m., 4 of our officers were in the area of Tower Lane and Lake Forest Boulevard in East New Orleans. They were patrolling and had the occasion to make an observation that caused them to exit the car. When they exited the car, there was a subject who fired upon our officers, striking one of our officers several times. What we know right now is that one, possibly 2 of our officers returned fire, perhaps striking the subject, and our officer was collapsed right there on the scene. What we know right now is that the subject fled into the area and secreted himself into an apartment at that location. Our officers surrounded that apartment, rendered aid to our officer. EMS came to transport our officer to the hospital where he expired. Right now we've met with the family. They're in our prayers. They have our condolences. They're in our thoughts. And we've spent some time with them tonight, and at their request, right now, we're not going to release the name of the officer because there's still further family members who are not yet notified. We believe that our officers fired at the perpetrator, striking that perpetrator, who has also now been transported here. But for a long time, he secreted himself into that apartment, and our SWAT team and negotiation team worked to make contact with him. There was a peaceful surrender after long negotiations, and he was transported by EMS here to the hospital. He is under arrest, but he's suffered several gunshots as well. And so we don't know all of the specifics about exactly what happened, how many shots were fired. What we know is that our officer was fired upon, was hit, and has expired as a result. The perpetrator was shot as a result. That subject is at University Hospital and is under arrest at this time. And so we've met with the family, certainly. We are all grieving. We've met with a number of our officers. We have grief counselors and chaplains here at the hospital who are working with us. And so our department is grieving, our city is grieving, and this family is grieving. And so we ask the city to pray for us and keep us in your thoughts and prayers.
Chief, again, what exactly were the officers doing in that area that led to this gunfire?
They were on routine patrol, and this is still under investigation. Whenever we have a police-involved shooting, the Forced Investigation Team out of Public Integrity Bureau is investigating, and so we have not taken official statements from the officers, but we do have limited information. They were on routine patrol. They saw something that aroused their suspicion. They were exiting the vehicle, and upon exiting the vehicle, what we have learned is that this perpetrator fired at our officer, striking our officer.
Remarks by the mayor and then questions.
All right.
Anyway, these are the worst days, kind of days for the city. The chief and I, of course, met with the family first, which was really hard. So we want to keep them in our thoughts and our prayers. There are a lot of officers that knew this officer really, really well, and the entire department, when this happens, is in trauma. And of course, it strikes at the heart, of the city. So I just want to ask the people of the city to keep the family in their thoughts and prayers, and also the men and women in the New Orleans Police Department, also all of the individuals that work in this hospital. the EMS, the doctors, all of these individuals are affected by this, but as you know, have been called upon actually to treat both the officer and the perpetrator, and they do a heroic job, and it's just an amazing thing to watch. But I just ask the city to keep everybody, in their thoughts and their prayers tonight. As we learn more information, we'll give you as much as we can at this time, but as the chief said, in respect to the family, we're not going to reveal the name of the officer at this time until family notifications are made.
Were any other officers hit or any other perpetrators? Or was it just one gunman at this time?
At this time, it was just one gunman. Only one officer received injuries, and there's only one perpetrator with injuries. That perpetrator is being treated as we speak here at the hospital and is under arrest.
Do you know what kind of, was it a high caliber gun, handgun? Do you know any kind of information?
At this time, we do not know. That scene is still fresh. It's still being processed right now, and so those are the answers to the questions we will get through the investigation, so we don't have that at this moment.
And it was 2 officers who were on patrol, that's right?
There were 4 total, but only one sustained injuries.
And it sounds like multiple officers shot at the suspect. Is that accurate? Or
It's
can
possible.
you say?
Well, we know that one did, but it's possible more than one did.
Anything you can say about the officer who died without giving his name, maybe his age, his assignment, how long he's been on the force?
Well, he's assigned to the 7th District, and, once again, at the family's request, they asked us not to reveal who that is because they're still contacting other family members. They'd like to personally make those notifications, and so we want to honor that request. But the officer was a member of the 7th District, just on routine patrol, doing his job, doing exactly what the citizens expect him to do. And so this hurts. I can't begin to tell you how much this hurts. But I've had to console our officers, and we've had to touch and hug our officers out there tonight and this family because we're all grieving. And so I'd ask you to keep this family in your prayers and keep our police department in your prayers as we grieve and continue to serve at the very same time.
Does it underscore how dangerous it is when people are opening fire at midnight on NOPD officers?
Well, it's critical. I mean, we don't know the circumstances that initiated, but yeah, it was evidently out there a very dangerous situation with just one perpetrator and a number of different officers, and obviously a lot of gunfire was involved. We'll know more about it, but we talk to these officers at their graduation, and of course we say this all the time about how dangerous this job really is, and unfortunately tonight, our worst nightmares, have come to be.
Do you have an age on the perpetrator? Was he known to the police?
I don't know the facts about his history right now, but he is a 30-year-old male from what I understand.
Was this just a patrol officer, or was it any one of the task forces, or was he with any kind of certain unit or any kind of specialized unit with the NOPD?
I think we're going to kind of reserve the answer to that. That kind of really narrows down who the officer is, and I think a little later today we'll be able to give you that specific.
Soon. So, anybody else?
Were any other agencies involved initially?
No.
Not to my knowledge.
Not that we know of.
And so there again, you heard Police Chief Michael Harrison and Mayor Mitch Landrieu giving an update on what happened this morning. Again, one New Orleans police officer dead after being shot apparently by a man they tried to stop out in New Orleans East. The family has decided to, at this moment, not right now, identify the officer. The police chief and the mayor say there are other relatives they want to identify. The family, I should say, wants to identify first. That's the latest now, reporting live from University Medical Center in Mid-City. Danny Monteverde, Eyewitness News. Back to you in the studio.
And Danny, a lot of information there from the police chief and Mayor Landrieu. But as far as we can understand, this officer was just on a routine patrol. There was something that these officers saw, which we're not sure of yet, that made them get out of the vehicle, and that's when this shooting began, right?
That's right. They say at this point they're not sure what exactly it was. An exact quote from the police chief was, he said these officers made what he called an observation. They got out of their car. At that point, the suspect opened fire. Now, it's not clear whether the suspect was on foot, whether he was in a vehicle, but the police chief did say, again, it was an observation. That's a direct quote from the police chief, which led to the officers to stop the suspect, who then apparently opened fire on these officers, and killing one, of course.
I know it hasn't been long since the press conference, but any word on the status of the suspect at the medical center?
There's nothing we've heard yet. Now, the police chief, as you heard the mayor and the police chief say, it sounds like he was shot multiple times. We did see 2 ambulances, this on-ramp that we're right by here, just a little bit before the press conference. 2 ambulances sped by, lights and sirens on. We assume that's probably at least one of those was the suspect. Now, he was holed up for a while in an apartment nearby, I believe they said, in New Orleans East. And again, not knowing the extent of his injuries, we don't know how serious they are. But you have to assume right now trauma surgeons here at UMC are working on him at the moment.
All right, Danny, thank you very much.
And we continue our breaking news coverage. Katie Steiner joins us now from where the officer was shot.
Yeah, and again, that shooting, as Police Chief Michael Harrison said, happened at the intersection of Terra Lane and Lake Forest Boulevard. Katie, exactly where are you? Because we understand that the suspect ran away from that scene into an apartment complex a few blocks away.
Yeah, so the police have kept us at a media staging area, so that's right off of the I-10 service road and here at Cindy Place. So this is a very large scene, so this isn't specifically where that officer got shot. This is just in the area, but you can see there's police tape here, a very active scene. We've been seeing police walk up and down this road. Some of them have dogs on leashes, so it is still very active here. There's a lot of activity going on. It's a little quiet here, and you can see they've kept us really far back from where they are investigating. And I talked to one of the PIOs just about 40 minutes ago. He said it's going to be a long night and a long day as they investigate this. He said this road is going to be closed off for a very long time. So the I-10 service road is open as of right now. When we got here at 3 o'clock in the morning, it was closed, but it is back open. And just to give you a little context of where we are in New Orleans East, we are right off of I-10 near the Crowder exit. So that's near the area where we are here in New Orleans East. You can see there are still officers here. There are still investigating. At some point we saw NOPD officers, we've seen state police officers out here, troopers, and we also have seen ATF officers. So there's been a lot of organizations that are investigating this, especially when you have an officer involved shooting like this. You do see more than just the NOPD investigating this. So you can see what's going on as of right now at the scene. And we're going to be here all morning, and we're going to keep you updated here on WWL TV. Reporting live from New Orleans East, Katie Steiner, Eyewitness News.
And Katie, what about the residents in that apartment complex? Have they been asked to leave the area, or have you seen any of them this morning?
No, we haven't seen anybody really this morning. It's been really quiet. We've seen most people, I assume, are still in their homes. It doesn't look like anything has been evacuated. There's not a lot of residents around this area. Again, still very quiet. You can see all the lights are on outside, but all of the windows inside, all dark. You don't see a whole lot of lights on in this area. And again, the shooting happened at 12:14 this morning. So we're now about 4.5 hours after that point. So you can still see that things are kind of quiet around here. I'm sure once people start waking up, getting out to work, it'll be interesting to see if they're able. I'm sure they're going to be able to leave at that point. But we haven't seen any residents really yet at 4:45 in the morning. Guys?
Katie, they said in the press conference there was 4 officers on the scene, routine patrol. Do you know how many cop cars there were? Were there 2 cars with 2 cops in each? Do you know?
Oh, we have no idea. But as of right now, I can see there's probably 5 or 6 right now in our viewpoint. But again, the scene is so large, we haven't even seen that area because we're not really allowed to go through. So they're really blocking off everything at this point, especially when you have a situation like this. You really want to make sure you know what's happening with the investigation. So that's what these guys are doing. They're blocking everything up, making sure they're dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, making sure they have everything ready to go in this investigation so they know exactly what happened.
Yeah, and again, that scene is probably so large because, as we heard in the press conference, that suspect did run into an apartment there and the SWAT had to come in and do negotiations. Tell us a little bit about that part of it.
Exactly, and we're not exactly sure which apartment complex that happened. There's a lot of apartment complexes around here, so we're not sure if it is this area or if it's a little bit further back. We don't really have that information as of right now, but that person, the suspect, did go into an apartment and was there for a couple of hours. In fact, I got here at 3 o'clock and we saw an ambulance going away in code, and that means that all the lights were on, so we assume that that was the suspect in that ambulance. You heard Danny say that he saw that ambulance go into UMC. So we're assuming that the suspect was in that ambulance, and it was interesting that that happened 2.5, 3 hours after that shooting, and that police officers did say that that suspect had sustained gunshot wounds. So we assume that that ambulance had the suspect in it, but we're not exactly sure. Again, details are pretty limited at this point. I think we're going to be getting some more information later in the morning and then also later in the afternoon.
All right, Katie, a lot of components to this story. Thanks for tying that together for us. And again, guys, an NOPD officer has been shot and killed out in New Orleans East. If you're traveling in that area this morning, it is impacting on the I-10 service road between Bundy and Crowder. But as Katie kind of pointed out, a large area being impacted there.
Yeah, and you heard Mayor Mitchell Andrews say these are the worst days for the city. Absolutely horrific.
Certainly. And of course, prayers for the family this morning, which is of course not trying to release the name of the officer right now. They want more family to be notified. All we know right now is that it was a 7th District officer and that the suspect is in the hospital with multiple gunshot wounds. We will be on top of the story all morning long. We do want to get to Dave, though, and the weather for today.